Morning all. All right, so today's updated history will be on the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Columbus Blue Jackets may be the ultimate underdog in the National Hockey League. A team that's made it out of round one once in their existence. They also, though, did win a qualifying round for the playoffs in 2020, but again, lose in round one. This is a team that is still working on finding that consistency, going through whether it's a retool, whether it's a rebuild, however you want to look at it. It's about finding that extended period of success that they've never really had, right? So their all-time scoring leader is Rick Nash. 674 games played, 89 goals, 258 assists for 547 points. He is also the only retired number they have, the number 61 being put to the rafters. Cam Atkinson, 627 games, 213 goals, 189 assists, 402 points. He, of course, is now with the Philadelphia Flyers. Nick Felino, sadly, almost heartbreakingly, only played 599 games as a Columbus Blue Jacket. Should have been one more. 142 goals, 192 assists, 334 points. I would not be entirely surprised to find out some way, somehow, Nick Felino finishes his career in Columbus. David Vaborny, a guy who might make it for an interesting career video. 543 games, 113 goals, 204 assists, 317 points. Jenner, 589 games for him, 144 goals, 140 assists, 284 points. So, of their current players, Jenner's highest on the board, and he's a little over halfway to the mark for Rick Nash. I don't know that he necessarily gets there, but he's halfway there. RJ Umberger, 445 games played, 120 goals, 130 assists, 250 points. Zach Werenski, 403 games played, 76 goals, 161 assists, 237 points. So you got to think that Werenski over the next season easily passes Umberger. Bjorkstrand should as well. Bjorkstrand, 382 games played, 111 goals, 123 assists, 234 points. Brandon Dubinsky, 430 games, 72 goals, 153 assists, 225 points for him. And Seth Jones, who at the time he left Columbus, had played 381 games, 50 goals, 173 assists, 223 points. So there are a lot of players who are currently in the Columbus lineup who could very well find themselves in the top 10 the next time I do this. But for right now, it is Seth Jones with 223 points that reaches that 10th spot. Your all-time wins leader is Bobrovsky, who, of course, has moved on to Florida. 213 wins in his career as a Columbus Blue Jacket. Steve Mason had 96. Mark Denis had 84. Jonas Korpisalo, 76. And Elvis Vermers-Leekens, 48. So both of their current 1 and 2 goaltenders are in the top 5. You have to think Elvis, the contract he has, wouldn't be surprising to see him at least up to number 2 on the list the next time I do this. And again, the only retired number is for Rick Nash, the number 61. When you get to playoffs, consistent playoffs have been a problem for Columbus. Columbus in general has been a franchise that has really been looking for some level of sustained success. And they've never really been near the top of the league. They've never really been a favorite when it comes to Stanley Cup time. The 2 series wins that they've had in their existence, both seen as huge upsets, right? So, I mean, on the one hand, it's great to be the underdog and get those upset wins. On the other hand, it's nice to be a favorite too, and it's nice to be one of the best teams in the league. So the first time they made the playoffs was 2009. They lost in the first round against Detroit in 4 straight, which submarined what had been a really good debut season for Steve Mason. 2014, they lost in the first round again, this time against Pittsburgh in 6. They don't like playing against Pittsburgh, because then the following time they're in the playoffs is 2017. They lost in the first round that year against Pittsburgh in 5. So, Pittsburgh back-to-back. 2018, they lost in the first round against the Washington Capitals in 6. 2019, they lose in the second round against Boston, again in 6. And in 2020, they lost in the first round in 5 games against Tampa Bay. So, by my count, the only time they've had a game that's win or die kind of situation would have been in 2020 in the qualifying round against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, outside of that, they haven't had a 7-game series. No Stanley Cups, nothing to speak of in terms of long runs, no conference finals, anything. So, while there are times where in past years I've looked at attendance and said, well, Columbus's attendance isn't fantastic, When you look at their overall record, it's kind of understandable. It is kind of understandable that in some locations, if a team isn't, setting the world on fire for years and years and years straight, it might be tough to justify spending the money on a ticket for a team that you may not have a lot of faith in. But again, sustained success would go a long way, I think, to filling that arena night after night after night. That arena being Nationwide Arena. So, beautiful arena. I do hope to visit it at some point in my life. It's supposed to be fantastic. And, the questions become one of, making it a very attractive place for players to go and having that sustained success will go a long way to reach that. They've had 10 coaches in their history, which, considering this team came into existence in 2000, it's a lot of coaches. Their first coach was Dave King. He lasted 204 games, had a record of 64, 106, 21, and 13. The 21 being ties, the 13 being overtime losses and shootouts. Brad Larson took over this year, and in 82 games, he coached them to a record of 37, 38, and 7. So they didn't have a bad record this year considering what was expected of them, but they do want to get better next season. The first goal in team history was scored by Bruce Gardner at 7:34 of the first period against the Chicago Blackhawks in a 5-3 loss. Interestingly enough, they had a 3-0 lead in that. First game, 3-0 lead, and then they ended up losing that 5-3. The most recent goal was scored by Gustav Nyquist. It's a power play goal at 12:06 of the third period against Pittsburgh in a 5-3 loss. So 5-3 loss for their first game, 5-3 loss for their most recent. Consistency. Now their all-time penalty minutes leader, that belongs to Jared Boll with 1,195 penalty minutes. His role, he knew what it was, and he played it well. Season records for goals, Rick Nash in 2003-2004 had 41 goals. Cam Atkinson evens that mark in 2018-2019. 4 assists, Panarin 59 in 18-19, and he had that in that same season 87 points, which is an all-time high for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're one of those teams that have never had a 100-point scorer. Jody Shelley has the all-time penalty minutes leader in a season. His record is 249. He recorded that in 2008-2009. Wins in a season, Bobrovsky has the lead there. 41, it recorded in 2016-2017. Again, a season where it looked like things were going well, and then they ran into the back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Penguins. Now, draft picks. At the draft table, not a lot of overall flops here. First-round picks that have played less than 100 games. I'm going to specify here, too. Last video, I noticed somebody saying, well, this guy hasn't played 100 yet. If there's a good chance the player's going to reach 100 games, it's fine. The guys on this list are more of along the lines of they won't reach 100 games, or they're very unlikely to reach 100 games if they're still playing hockey. So, 2004, they drafted Alexander Picard at 8th overall. He played 67 games in the NHL. In 2008, they drafted Nikita Filatov, 6th overall. And there was a lot of hype about Filatov. He was seen as the best player outside the NHL for a while there. They couldn't wait to bring him over. And then he only ended up playing 53 games in the National Hockey League. It just didn't work. And then in 2013, they drafted Kirby Reichel, 19th overall. He played 43 games. So that's pretty good. That in this case, Columbus, if you're drafting in the first round, you're Columbus, you're at least getting guys who will play in the National Hockey League. None of their first rounders not having played. Again, there are others who haven't debuted in the NHL yet, but there's a good chance they will. Best draft picks at 157th, drafting 157th in 2008. They draft Cam Atkinson. Drafting 168th in 2003. What is it with the 03 draft? Mark Mathot. Drafting 127th in 2008. Matt Calvert. Drafting 95th overall in 2012. Josh Anderson. Drafting 89th overall in 2013. Oliver Bjorkstrand, who was a favorite of the EA Sports games. It's funny because when I was playing the EA games, I noticed that Bjorkstrand as a prospect always became this huge goal scorer and really good player. And in any franchise mode I played, I always picked him up right away. 2013, the number 159 pick was Vladislav Gavrikov. And Gavrikov, of course, pretty solid defenseman. Underrated defenseman for Columbus, but there's a lot of underrated players that have played for Columbus and play for Columbus because they don't get the amount of attention as other teams do as well. So for today, they're getting the attention from me, from the channel. And yeah, so we'll see whether or not the next time I do this, I would love to see a nice long run by Columbus. I absolutely want to see that happen. See Columbus go to at least a conference final and really shock the world. So when does that happen? That's the great question, isn't it? And Jarmo Kekalainen's doing his best to put together a team that will do that. Of course, for Jarmo, he really wants to see the next time I do this video, say 3 years down the road, that Laine is on the board and Laine sticking with the team for a long time. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happen upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.